This is probably the most critical I've been with one of Luminar Neo's features. I've done a lot of testing over the last couple of weeks, and here's a quick summary. For simple photos, meaning, the hair is not too crazy, there's good separation from the subject to the background, it works fairly well. It's not perfect, it may need some cleanup, but it works fairly well. It's when you get into the complicated hair, like wavy hair, curly hair, complicated backgrounds. This is where I have a big problem with the background removal tool. Let's take this image as an example. To remove the background, you simply go into your layers properties, click on masking, and you'll see this option for portrait background. You click on that, and then you'll have an option to remove the background, which we will do. And as you see, it does a pretty decent job. There is some haloing here that we can fix with the refinement brush. We'll get back to that in a second. And as we look around the hairs, it's a pretty good result. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, just to drive my point, we're going to go into layer properties again with this example and do the same process. As we zoom in here, we see that around the body, around the hair, it does a really good job. Now it did miss some of this, and we could again fill that in by correcting the mask. Not a big problem. It'll take me just a few seconds to fix that. Now let's look at a more complex situation. Now this image, the person has quite wavy curly hair. Let's see how Luminar Neo does with this photo. So we're going to do the same process. And at first glance, you think, oh, it's not bad. It does a pretty decent job. But if I put a dark background behind it, you're going to see that, oh my goodness, all this stuff is there. This is where the refinement brush comes in. And I'll get back to that in a second, I promise. I want to show you one more example where I consider an extreme situation where we have someone with very curly hair here. Let's remove the background. I'm going to add the same black background here. And then we see the same thing where the selections weren't very accurate. So here's where I have a problem, and I admit this is kind of a biased opinion. I'm going to bring in the same photo here in Canva Pro. I'm going to delete the background using Canva Pro. Now Canva is not a photo editor. It has some minimal photo editing capabilities, but this is for design. And I'm going to add a background element so you can see what I'm talking about here. Do you see this? This is what I'm talking about. This is my standard. This is a program for design. It's not a photo editor, but look how clean the background is removed. I don't even have to refine it. Now, Canva does have refinement tools, but it's limited. You can either restore or erase. There's no brush tools or anything like that. It doesn't need it because it does such a great job. I can pull all those other images in here and we're going to get the same amazing results. So this is why I'm super critical with this particular feature. Canva is not known to be AI technology. And I know it's been around for a while, and this just came out in Luminar Neo, and future updates will improve it. I get it. But it's practically night and day between the two. So let's go ahead and use the refinement tools. So once again, under Layers, Properties, Masking, Portrait Background, click on Remove, and it will remove the background. Once the background's been removed, we can click on Refinement Brush, and it's gonna bring up these colors here. The blue represents the background, the orange is the object, and transition is in between the two. Now I have my refinement background unchecked because I want to see the background, but if you click on it, it's going to give you that transparency background. Because I want to see the areas, I'm going to uncheck mine, and then we're simply going to tighten up the background here. So I'm simply just going to get as close to the hair as possible. You don't have to get too close to it. And we're going to refine where the background is. And basically what you're doing is you're telling the AI that this area is also background. And you'll see even if I pass through some of the hairs, no big deal. you see that it starts to remove some of the areas that it missed, right? I encourage you to be a bit more accurate. I'm just doing this really quickly. And for the object, again, I'm just going to tighten up some of these areas here. Really doesn't matter on the body. The hairs, maybe just at the top here. You see that it brought in a bit more detail here at the top of the head when I did that selection. Same thing over here. And what we'll do is click on transition. What I encourage you to do is zoom in as close as you can and just first start with the edges of the brush here. But you see that it's starting to take away some of that background. So I go into these areas here, you see that it's starting to make that separation. Now you are going to lose some of that hair detail, and that's the first problem I have, is that because it's not accurate, you see how it took a big chunk away there? That's not what I want to do, right? So I can bring those hairs back just by clicking on object again and bringing that area back in. But then I have to do the same thing and delete those areas. Like I can use a smaller brush if I wanted to be more accurate. You see here. There we go. I don't really have a choice at this point because it's not removing enough of the background. But you see a lot of the whitish background or the gray background still coming through. And if you look at these areas here, we're starting to lose some of the detail. And I guess this is why I'm so critical. Like it takes a lot of work to get decent results with this type of photo. And if I zoom out, it doesn't look that great. Now, one of the workarounds is using a background that will complement the previous background. So if I use this one, for example, it's got a similar gray tone to it. Problem solved. You know, I can go in here and clean stuff up so that it looks more natural. But workaround number one is to use a complementary background of similar tone, similar color, so that you don't see those problem areas. The other workaround is using the clone and stamp tool. Now, obviously it's not available in Neo just yet, but if you're like me and you came from Luminar AI, we can clone and stamp in Luminar AI. Let me just show you that really quickly. So here we are in Luminar AI, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a clone and stamp tool. Basically what you can do is zoom into these problem areas, sample an area that you want to use, and simply go over it here. And you'd have to, pick different areas so you don't develop obvious patterns from sampling in certain areas. So if I were to, keep covering up these areas with the gray background, that's another workaround you can do. Now, obviously this just came out, and I expect that in future updates, it's going to be a lot more cleaner. It's going to be a lot more accurate, and hopefully they improve the refinement tools. I just feel like the refinement tool is clunky and archaic. Now, is that a deal breaker to me? No, because 99% of the time when I'm taking pictures of people, I'm not removing the background. The only reason why I remove a background is I'm going to create a thumbnail for YouTube or social media or whatever. And that's the only time I remove a background. And as I showed you earlier, Canva does a great job. With that being said, Relight AI, Mask AI are features that I absolutely love. And if you haven't tried those out yet, check out these videos to learn about Mask AI and Relight AI. Until the next video, my friends, I'll see you when I see you.